right. Hey everyone, my name is Dave Pilon. I'm here, thank you, with my amazing, beautiful wife, Ashley, my mother-in-law, Suzanne Duga, our coach back there, Kate Durio, and all of you here who came here to support. You could be doing a lot of other things, but you came here to support your community. My wife and I own Redwood Speech and Feeding Specialist here in Lafayette, and we work with a lot of individuals who have sensory processing challenges. And when an individual has sensory processing challenges, they experience a world that's too loud, too bright, too fast, and therefore it's pretty unsafe. Years ago, we were at Festival International, and we ran into some parents we know who have two autistic children. When we asked them where their children were, they said, man, we'd love to bring our kids here. We really would. We're festival people, like a lot of us in this room. We want to share that with their kids. But in the event that one of their kids is having a meltdown or sensory overloaded, there was just nowhere to safely bring them. So this is where the idea for sensory safe spaces came to be. Woo! In Louisiana, right, we have a lot of events. There's a frog festival. Soon enough, there's going to be a farm festival. Right? While events are fun, they can be extremely overwhelming too. Right? There's usually no place for you to go to if you need a break, if you're overloaded. We could all relate to that feeling of feeling overwhelmed in some way or another. Last year, you may have seen, we created a space at Festival International. While it was very successful, we realized a problem, that more events need a space like this. And yes, there is a need. However, we don't have the equipment to keep this thing going. Festival International, they loaned us stuff. We brought stuff from our houses, and some events may not have the stuff to help us with. We envision a space like this, open, accepting, chill. These kids in these pictures right here, their parents said they would bring them to more events had they have a space like this to resort to. So what would our space look like? There's comfortable seating, there's dark out tents, there's sensory bags, which some of you have to give out. There's calming activities and so much more. But I think the really key piece of our space is that we create awareness through educating the public about sensory processing challenges that many of us may experience. And in doing so, we have kids from schools, you can see in these pictures, stuffing the sensory bags to hand out. Volunteers who are committed to the cause, work in the space, work in the front of the space to educate the general public about sensory processing issues. We envision this in phases, like festival was the first phase. If we have a second phase, we're going to have this idea at Mardi Gras, UL game, and so much more. Maybe a farm festival, right? But we need help to make this thing happen. We really do. Okay, backers. We also have partnerships, with many organizations listed up here that have skin in the game as well. But we need help, like I said. We're asking for $3,000, 100% commitment to inclusion, to making events have safe sensory spaces. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Back to that slide. Great job. Questions from the backers.
Hi, during our one-on-one earlier, I just wanted to point out that you have educators, you have experts in your field on your team that have brought your expertise in a volunteer capacity, and I appreciate that. How do you see partnering with other experts in the community to make this a reality across multiple events?
We actually feel like that's probably the easiest part of this whole project because everyone can relate to this. Everyone has a child or a friend with a child or a sister with a child or somebody, even themselves, who can relate to needing something like this. And so we've already gotten partnerships, a lot of the partnerships we mentioned earlier. We've used those to stuff our sensory bags, or actually to provide the items for our sensory bags. So an ENT provided the earplugs, a dermatologist provided the sunscreen. There was things like that. Today we're asking for the structural footprint different what we're trying to do so that we can do it outside of festival. But we also have an idea that if businesses want to help us furnish the actual tents that are going in there, we will have a separate sponsorship that could be that, where it could be sponsored by a certain business, each tent. Right now it's currently a storage unit full of our own bean bags and fans and weighted blankets and things that parents have donated to us that they don't need anymore from the sensory community. We really have so many organizations wanting to be involved in this in different ways.
Go ahead, Noah.
First, I want to say thanks for doing this. I think it's really cool. Any parent or older sibling knows the value of this at an event. My question is, so it's really your team right here. Let's say you get everything you need right now. What's your ability to go to multiple events throughout the year? How many events do you think you can go to that you can service with the setup that you have? Because I mean, if it's just y'all hanging out and doing great work, going to every event and setting it up, that seems tough. So I'm curious what you think you can do.
Well, our first step was festival this year, and our goal for 2023 is to be able to do we picked 2 more big events that we feel like has a real need for this, which is Mardi Gras and a UL game. And so those are our 2 next targets, but we've already gotten calls from much smaller organizations wanting to have something at their local event for their community or their local church event or their local organization and different things like that. And so we feel like once we have the tents, once we have the structures, once we have the basics, we can roll this out more frequently. So our first goal would be Mardi Gras and UL, at least that next year. But after that, we feel like it could be almost anything, because not everyone's going to need every single element that we have. A trunk or treat may only need 1 tent, just a little space where people can go. And so for something like that, we could go set it up and leave it, and they have their own volunteers for it or something.
And we also were very, very lucky in the first event when we put the word out among our own community, parents who may have autistic children, the autism, different groups like that. And we had a lot of volunteers. There were some time slots where we had more than we could use. So we sort of feel like as we get the word out and do the education, that will continue.
And I just want to add to that, because of our connections, we have so many parents, so many families that are like, dude, yes, like, please, we will come help. We will come make this happen with you. So like Suzanne said, we had an influx of volunteers at festival. We feel like that's, again, a strong suit of ours, is being able to connect with our community, who's kind of being excluded from some of these events, to be honest with you.
Guys, we have time for one more quick question. Go ahead, Lacey.
So this really kind of piggybacks off of Noah's question, but we talked earlier about, as people become more aware of the space, the potential for the chaos to kind of come there, right? So what has been effective, especially we were talking about Festival International earlier, to kind of prevent that and keep it a calm and comforting space?
Well, a few different things. We think that, first of all, education about what this space really is, that it's not just a VIP space, it's not a babysitting space, it's not a space where you can drop your kids off and leave and go enjoy or anything like that. So we feel like it starts with that. It also really impacted us that we had barriers. So we had a designated area that was actually closed off. And so we had an entrance where the main part was our volunteers, our really educated volunteers, who could stand right at the front, and you can see people coming from a mile away, and you can tell someone that needs a break versus someone who's looking for the face painting area. And so we were able to just kind of point them on their way. So we really felt like it was the expertise and the volunteer training that we did that was really able to kind of control that. We noticed that when we did have that problem was the moment that we were in between switching shifts of volunteers, and suddenly we had moms who were calling their friends and saying, hey, we found this spot, So we've talked about that and our barriers, and even the potential at a big event to have bracelets. Like a pink bracelet means you're there from 8 to 10, and if pink bracelets are still hanging out at 2 p.m., we can probably move them along, kind of thing.
You got something to add, Dave?
Very quickly,
Okay.
that's part of the thing we're asking for too, right, is, didn't show up here, but one of our tents is going to be an entrance. That allows us to educate what Ashley just said. The other thing we're asking for is signage. Signage is a big deal. Signage not just only deciphers where we're going to be, but signage allows us to educate as well. You know, imagine going to a park. You go to a park, they tell you what's at the park or whatever, and so on and so forth. So education is the biggest piece that we need to do to make this space applicable and continue to move forward.
Round of applause for Safe Sensory Spaces.